Hello everyone, I am CJ. I stream myself on YouTube regularly on Coding Garden with CJ. I just reached 7,000 subscribers like yesterday, so yeah, thank you. I stream myself building apps, solving problems, all kinds of stuff, and just recently I built Dev Jeopardy. And I built actual like physical buzzers for people to buzz in with, and I built an Electron app with Vue and Electron using some of the stuff that I'm going to show you today. Today, I started a job at 303 Software here in Denver. Oh, yeah, thank you. They're a cool spot. They're a consultancy here. They build all kinds of apps for all kinds of people, and they seem like awesome people in the one day that I spent with them. Awesome. So yeah, I'm just going to give a rundown of what is Vue CLI 3, how to use the Vue UI, how to use plugins, and some of the, all of the stuff that entails. Who here has used Vue CLI 3? Cool. Hopefully I'll show you something that you haven't seen yet. But Vue CLI 3 was published back in August, and there was a blog post that came out by Evan Yu talking about all the features that were built into it. It really is a beautiful thing. It's like one of, like if you've used other CLI tools like Angular CLI or Create React App or Ember CLI, the Vue CLI is like the cream of the crop. Like it's beautifully architected, it works well, it's easily extendable, it's pretty sweet. And I will show it to you now. And one of the key things about the Vue CLI 3 is there is no need to eject. So here, who here has ever created a React app? Yeah, and so like if you ever want to modify like Webpack configs or even like ESLint configs, or if you want to like dig down into that, you have to eject the configs, and then they're in your source code control, and you have to, now you have a bunch more code that you have to manage. With the Vue CLI 3, it's all hidden from you, which is actually a good thing, and there is a way to extend it, which I will show. Current version is 3.05, was released 14 days ago, but it is, the 3.0 is now a stable branch. Okay, first thing, if you want to install it, this is how you install it. I installed it earlier. And then one thing I wanted to do is compare a Vue CLI 2 app versus a Vue CLI 3 app. And once you've installed the latest version of the CLI, if you want to use Vue init, which is the way to do it before the new CLI 3, which is Vue create, you can install this, and this actually allows you to use CLI 2 and CLI 3 at the same time. So first thing I will do is Vue init, which is the old way, and then you specified a template. I'll do Webpack. And this will just be example app v2. And that'll spin. But the way this worked, though, is it was template-based. So this actually downloaded a template from GitHub and is just going to expand it into the folder. And I think it might modify it slightly based on the questions that I answer. So sure, let's get Vue router. We want ESLint. Let's use Airbnb. No unit tests, no end-to-end tests. We'll use NPM, and then it'll go. But the way this works is it literally downloads a template with all of the configurations and everything in it and then extracts it into the folder. The way Vue CLI 3 works is, I guess I don't know the technical way to speak about it, but essentially everything is plugin and template based, meaning every little piece, including the linter, the router, the testing, each of those is a plugin that is able to modify specific files in the folder or create specific files in the folder and do things in a more dynamic way rather than just expanding a directory. So this is with the Vue CLI 2. If we take a look at it in VS Code, there's a lot of stuff in there. So you might be familiar with like the build folder. This is my break timer. Let's take a quick stretch. We're just getting started. But if you ever generated a Vue CLI 2 app, you have this build folder with all of this configuration in it, and this would get checked into Git. Like you would have to manage all of this stuff and modify it. You have your like Webpack configs, and then everything else, it's pretty standard, but it's like your components and stuff like that. The Vue CLI 3 hides all of this behind the scenes. And the good thing about that is as each new release of Vue CLI comes out, if they fix like a configuration bug, you can take advantage of that. Like in the old way, you would have had to like merge with a newly generated app or something like that. Now you benefit from any bug fixes that are in upstream. So let's generate an app with Vue CLI 3. So this is, we'll go up to the, wait, where are we? Cool. So in this folder, I'll create a Vue CLI 3 app. So the command for this was Vue create, let's do example app v3. And this one has an interactive prompt. And each question you answer is actually going to install a different plugin or configure it in a different way. So we will manually select the features. We can choose Babel. We can have it configured with TypeScript out of the box, PWA support out of the box. I'll do router, Vuex, CSS preprocessing, and away we go. And of all those options you check, it will actually ask you to save it. This is saying, do I want history mode? Sure. Which preprocessor do I want? Let's use SAS. I want that config, that. The option this gives you is all of your configuration files, so like your ESLint file, your post-CSS config file, your Babel RC. You have the option to put all of those in your package JSON instead of as bare files in the directory here. Let's just do that just to see how clean everything will be. Save this as a preset. So this is what I talked about a second ago. You could save this as like my team's preset. If every app that you generate needs these specific things, and then in the future, just choose that and you don't have to answer all the questions. So save this as a preset, no, and it will generate it. It has emojis now, which is sweet. Cool. And actually, while that's going, I want to show another really cool feature. I'm kind of bouncing around here, but one of the other things built into the CLI is this idea of like rapid prototyping. So even without generating an app, I could go in here and create a Vue app and then just instantly serve it. So you'll notice there's just app.vue right there. And then let's create like a, we'll do a created lifecycle hook. And just log inside of there, hello world. So super basic component from the CLI, I can actually do Vue serve app.vue, and it will instantly start it up without having to generate an app. So this is also really cool for, like, you have an idea and you want to just go, and now instantly I have a Vue app without having to generate anything. So that's pretty sweet. And you get, it's fully configured with Webpack, because all that stuff is hidden behind the scenes. So that's cool as well. But let's take a look at what got generated. So now you'll notice there's a lot less stuff in there. So there's no build folder, there's no config folder. It's just the source code that you actually care about. And if we look at the package JSON, you can see that the serve, build, and lint script are all behind this Vue CLI service. So this is the package that's actually in charge of all of the configuration and everything like that. And so in the root directory, when I did Vue serve, the Vue CLI service is actually installed globally, so it's able to just spin that component right up. Cool, so this is the app. What else did I want to show? Yeah, and then I'll show the UI, but one thing I'll talk about is, okay, now that the configuration is hidden from me, how do I change it? Like I want to add a new Webpack loader or some other thing like that. This is where your Vue config comes into play. These are the docs for the Vue CLI 3. If you take a look at like working with Webpack, it'll talk about what you need. I believe there's other things you can configure in here as well, but Webpack will probably be one of the things you do. But you create a file called vue.config.js in the root of the folder that got generated. And in here, you just export an object. And inside, you say configure Webpack. And inside of this object can go any Webpack configuration that you find in their documentation or out on the web. And this actually gets merged in with the Webpack config that is managed by the Vue CLI service. So in their example, they're showing my awesome Webpack plugin. So like any Webpack plugins you find, you just add them right here, and the Vue CLI will automatically pick those up and integrate them with your app. Cool. So there's that. Check out those docs. There's lots of really cool stuff. Now I want to show you the Vue UI, which is pretty sweet. Who here has seen the Vue UI? Just a few? Okay, it's going to be fun. Let's do it in this directory. So this comes built in after you've installed the CLI globally, and you get this awesome thing. So let's actually go home. This was I called it Dev Party. That was my Developer Jeopardy app that I created, but I actually used the Vue UI to generate it and add plugins. But this UI is basically a UI into the CLI. So if I wanted to create a project, I could choose like the root directory. Let's go Meetup Talks. Vue CLI 3. And so this folder was generated with Vue CLI 2. This was generated using the command line. Now I'm going to create a new project just using the UI here. So let's create a new project. We'll say Vue CLI 3 UI. And basically, it's just a user interface version of the command line tool, which is pretty cool. So you could choose, do you want npm or yarn? We'll just choose npm. Should I initialize it as a Git repository? Next. And then you can choose all of those options just like you did in the command line. So let's do manually, and then you'll see, well, there's Babel. Let's choose the router. Let's get Vuex. You can choose testing if you want. And then here you can turn on if you want to use separate config files instead of just the package.json. We'll click Next. And pick a linter. I'll do Airbnb config. You can turn on history mode and then click Create Project. And then this will also ask if you want to save it as the preset. So we'll do it without saving. And this, if we look at the terminal, is doing the same thing it did before. But this UI was actually in control of that, which is pretty cool. And then I want to show, after this is done, how you can actually add plugins. So that's one of the other major benefits of Vue CLI 3 is, okay, I have this base app, but now I want to add a component library, or I want to add some other library that typically integrates with Vue. From here, you can search through all of the plugins that have been published, and they can get added into your app. You can also do this from the command line, but it has a pretty cool UI.
How did you access the UI?
Vue UI, just like that. Yep. I will say, and you'll notice in the title here, it is beta still. I have come across some bugs when adding plugins. I might actually do those from the command line, but let's see the app. So this is a view into the app that just got generated, and you can see the plugins that we have are just CLI service, Babel, and ESLint. You can also see a visual representation of your dependencies. This is essentially just your package.json. You can go in and configure your ESLint in a nice little UI here. So you can go in rules and like enable or disable ESLint rules, which is pretty cool. And then, yeah, you have your base settings for like your base URL and all that good stuff. And then there are also tasks. So this is how you would start up the app. So, and this is a cool like little dashboard that'll show you like how big your bundle size is and all that good stuff. So if I click Run Task here on Serve, this will actually start up the Vue CLI app. And yeah, so we can see like the size of all the assets. We can see that the app is idle. If you look at output, this is actually like your terminal output that you can see there. And then we can actually visit the link, and we should get a Vue app. Cool. But let's add some plugins. So on NPM, I think I linked it. Did I link it? Yes, on NPM, any module that begins with the name Vue-CLI-plugin gets registered as a plugin for Vue. So you could publish your own plugins if you wanted to, but if you just search for that, you'll actually see all the plugins that other people have published. So there's Storybook, there's Apollo, there's Vuefy, which is a component network, component framework. There's Weeks, which is the React Native counterpart that came out of Alibaba. All kinds of plugins ready for the installing. You can also see those here. So if you go to plugins and then you go to add plugin, you get a nice like visual search. So like let's say I want to add Vuetify to this app. I can click here. This is actually where I ran into a bug last time. Let's see if it works. So let's install Vuetify. So if you're not familiar with Vuetify, it is a component library. Material design component library with all kinds of cool components built in, like nav bars and buttons and stuff like that. And the plugin is pretty sweet because after it gets done generating, it'll actually scaffold out like your home page and like a nav bar and stuff like that. Finish installation. Okay, something broke. Yeah, it broke. But the way to do this from the command line is just Vue add Vuetify. So what this does is it searches npm for a package called Vue-CLI-plugin- Vuetify, and then installs that. It should work if we do it from the command line. Let's see. Oh no! Oh, I'm in the wrong folder. Oh no! No such file or directory. Scander. Okay, I'm not going to debug this. It would be really cool to see. Let's try Vue CLI, actually. Let's see if that works. I'm not sure if it works the same as the Vue CLI plugin, because the Vue CLI plugin will add new routes. It'll add the nav bar and everything else. Let's try this. Actually, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go up to the one that I didn't generate using the UI and just see if it works from there. Okay, Vue add Vue CLI. This is the one that I generated from the command line. Oh well. I bet if we search for this, there's probably like an open issue on the plugin or something like that. I said I wasn't going to debug it. Oh well. When it works, it's great. When it doesn't, you get nothing. But check out NPM. Search for all the different kinds of plugins. There actually is the plugin for React Router and for Vuex are actually core plugins. So when you're in the UI, this thing shut down. Let me start it back up. But when you're in the UI, it will actually it has dedicated buttons at the top, like install router, install Vuex, because those actually don't have a module on NPM called Vue CLI plugin router. I believe they're built into the core package. I think that's the main stuff. Anybody have any questions, comments, thoughts about this? Yes?
Have you tried like removing a plugin from that?
Yes. And I think it worked. Because I did have issues with the Vue CLI plugin before. I've gotten the Vue CLI plugin working. And actually so Marlena and I did a talk at Denver Startup Week, and we did it live, and it worked. There's a bug right now. But yeah, I believe there should be like a remove command. Let's see. Remove plugin. Let's see if you can do Vue remove add. Yeah, I don't know if there's a remove command, but the UI might actually have a way to remove the plugin. So we're in here. We can go to plugins. It says it's there. I don't think it's there. More info. There might not be a way to remove a plugin right now. Good question. Yeah.
Is that environment variables section
in configuration? Or?
The Vue CLI docs?
Let's see.
I saw that there's an environment variables section. Does
Yeah.
that actually hide environment variables?
No, because it's still front-end code, right? So when it gets built, ultimately all of that will show up on the site that gets deployed. Yeah, so it still gets deployed, but this is just useful for when you have multiple environments that you're testing in. So like you might have staging and production, and when you deploy to the two different places, it might talk to two different APIs. So that's typically what that is used for. Cool. Other questions? Yeah.
So when you update a package, imagine that like shows up in your code somewhere, right? Like if you like commit, like you update and then you commit that update package, where does that show up in your code?
That's just your package JSON. So yeah, so like all of your dependencies will have a specific version. If you upgrade, the version will just get bumped here. Yeah, and so when someone else pulls down your code, they just do an npm install to get the latest version.
It's all like in an external patch or something.
Yep.
So then to delete the package, couldn't you just erase and then npmi?
Yeah, so like npm uninstall, I guess apparently it installed it, but it just broke immediately when it started. This is my break timer. That means I've been talking for at least 15 minutes, so I'll probably stop. Any other questions?
So what was the reason for obfuscating the Webpack update?
Mainly to prevent, well, like you can, I would definitely point you to Evan Yu's blog post, because he talks about essentially like developer fatigue. Like there's so much configuration involved that like even as a new developer or moving to different projects, there's just so much you have to manage. And by putting it all in one place and also creating like best practices, then it's something that we don't have to manage ourselves. It's still possible to like manually create an app with Webpack if you wanted to, but this is just like the Vue sanctioned way of doing it.
Okay.
Yeah. Cool. Anything else? All right. Thanks.
Just generic questions.
Yeah. Sure.
computer property setters are something that I've been having trouble wrapping my mind around.
This is going to turn into a CJ debugging session. Wait, let's see. Will this actually start up? No, npm run serve. Okay, ask your question. You have 1 minute.
Specifically using vModel,
Okay.
you're not allowed to use computer property and actually bind to that and then change it around, and
Yeah.
it goes deeper into using Vuex.
Definitely. I think I know what you're talking about. So let's say, is this cool? Everybody cool with this? Okay, I'm gonna set a 2-minute timer. Is that cool?
Yeah.
Okay, 2 minutes. Cool. Okay, so yeah, like you have an input, and you want to bind it to like something that's in your store. Let's say like on my state here, I have like a name, and initially it's CJ. We have a mutation to like update name. How do mutations work? What do I get?
Mutations can update state, and actions update mutation.
Like, what do I get access to here? Is it like state like that?
Oh,
Is it a parameter? Do I have to look it up?
I think it is state.
I don't know. Let's not run the code. Let's just talk about it. Okay. So state.name equals like some name. Cool. So you have your mutation, which would actually update your state, and then we could create a getter, but we actually don't necessarily need a getter because we could use map state. So like in your component, I want to bind this input to the thing in the store, but the issue here is I can't just directly bind it because I actually need to call update name. This is where computed comes into play. So you could create a computed name, and I believe we can do set and get. Is that
Yeah.
like this one? So get would just return this dot $store dot state dot name, yeah, and then our set would receive a value, and this would call our mutation. So like this dot $store dot commit. What is it? I'm in React right now. I forget. Commit. Dispatch. Oh, and then that would call the mutation. Okay, but you could directly call a commit, couldn't you? So like update name value. Cool, and that would do it. And so like now on this input, you would do vModel equals name, and so this hooks it up so that when the name changes, it actually like communicates with the store.
The name becomes the value then.
Yeah, exactly. Because when it gets it, that's my timer. Okay. But yes, so like the getter will return this name from state, and the setter will actually commit it with the mutation. But they mentioned you probably want an action that calls your mutation. Cool. I'm done. Thank you very much.